am delighted to be with you today. Just to kind of give you a little background on myself. I'm a lifelong educator, and that means both a teacher and a learner. I believe that lifelong learners are the best for helping others to accomplish that as well. As Joyce mentioned, I have 26 years in K-12 education, starting as a classroom teacher, and then 17 of those years as a program director and school administrator. I have my current technical education certification, my early childhood certification, my principal, and my superintendent certificate. So kind of just all, have the K-12 space kind of all over in that respect. And then I did 5 years. I've done the past 5 years doing career pathway design with the foundation, and then future readiness with an ed tech company. So altogether, I'm dating myself and telling my age. So, but it's something that I love. And education is just such a part of who I am. I truly grew up in education. Both my parents were educators. In fact, I am the only child of the first husband and wife school superintendents in the state of Texas. And so to say that I grew up in a school truly is the case. I was the little kid that sat coloring in the corner while parents graded papers and coached basketball and later on went on to be school superintendents. So I have a heart for education, and that is truly a part of who I am. And so I just want to welcome you today and to this presentation of getting to the heart of future readiness for all students. Because I really do believe that it is very important that we talk about ways to ensure that all students have the opportunity to be successful. So thank you for joining and sharing your time on this Valentine's Day with me. You're going to find that I'm probably going to be kind of punny today, and I'm going to play up the getting to the heart of the matter since it is Valentine's Day. So maybe that'll, bring a little humor to our a lightheartedness to our discussion of something that is so important and so critical to ensure that we make sure all students have the opportunity to be successful. So let's, just kind of jump in. I do believe, and I really do believe this, that most if not all educators get into education for the right reason, which is because they have a love for students. And let's face it, it's not for the flowers and the candy that like you get on Valentine's Day. So just wanting to, talk about, let's face it, most people got into education for the right reasons because they do have a heart for helping students and seeing students succeed, helping a student to find their passion and being a part of a child's journey. Those are the gifts that we receive as educators. So today we're going to just our agenda really quickly is discovering the right bait. So anytime that you're going fishing or you're trolling around, if you're trying to find something, you need the right bait. Even if it's you want a great Valentine's date tonight, you need the right bait. So we're going to talk about what that bait is and the 4 pieces that I think go into getting true future readiness for all students. So we're going to start with building support structures necessary for future readiness. We're going to talk about analyzing existing opportunities. We're going to talk about identifying emerging markets for workforce development. And we're going to talk about the importance of partnerships because you cannot do this alone. You need help. And we're going to talk about resources and ways that you can find the help that you need to ensure that all of your students leave you and graduate truly future ready. Okay, the first thing we're going to talk about is building support structures. And so, as Joyce mentioned, one size does not fit all. So in this case, you really have to look at your sub-pops. what are your different groups of students that you're serving? And then how do you build the support structures that each group need to be successful? Because group A may absolutely have to have these support structures, but group B or C may not need those. They may need something completely different to make sure that this is uh, it is something that can support them in their future readiness piece. So I listed here kind of a variety of things that I found to be very, very helpful in ensuring that you are reaching each subset of students that you're working with. For example, looking at the student's individual education plan. That is a great way to personalize the support structures that that particular student needs to be successful. Visiting with your 504 committees. So maybe a subgroup of your students have some specialized needs as it relates to future readiness. And that 504 committee, as they've discussed and they've looked at teacher evaluations and such, can really be some great insight. And whether if you're not able to actually go and attend that 504 meeting, you also can look at their notes and their meeting minutes, and then also the teacher evaluations to get some initial or some additional information from that. You know, with IEPs, whenever, you know, there has to be certain representatives, whether it be counselors, a CTE teacher, a regular academic teacher as well. So you can also reach out to those individuals to find out more about the needs that they're hearing as well. Then I also think it's really, really important. As a former CTE director, I used to use my needs assessment to really target the subgroups of students that we served. And an example of that is we had in one of the districts that I worked in North Texas, we had a very, very large group of students that had very significant life skills needs. And so we had much higher than the average, 10% within a certain campus that had significant special education needs. So I used my CTE needs assessment to work with the special populations directors to target those students to see what are some things that we could do to be preparing them to have successful careers in the future. And in that respect, we collaborated and we used our CTE culinary program to be able to open a restaurant in our school that was open to our public. And we used our junior and senior level culinary students, as well as special education and CTE instructors, to teach students how do you take orders, how do you fill orders, how do you clean the table, how do you greet guests, etc. And then we partnered with people within our community. We're going to talk about partnerships in a minute, to place those students and to provide them with opportunities for successful employment. So whether that be through work-based learning, but definitely a part of their transition from secondary education to the post-secondary world and what that might mean for them. So using your CTE needs assessment, which is something that every district has to do, if that's not something that you actively participate in, surprise the pants off of your CTE director and go volunteer to help them with their CTE needs assessment so that you can ensure that the students that you serve are being served in those classrooms. You will be met with open arms because it is something that every CTE director has to do. And that is a great way for you to partner with someone within your own school district that has great opportunities for your students, but also has their own funding sources, some of which are very specifically designed to help students that have maybe a special population need. So that is a great way to do to help build those specific support structures for your students. And then local organizations, and then I mentioned industry. And we're going to talk about in the partnership section, how do you go and find those people? How do you know that they exist? Well, this is a great place to start, is talking to other people that have similar needs. And so that is, again, that's how you build those support structures, is by talking to other people that want to ensure that these students are successful. Making sure that all the right people are at the table when you're having these discussions about the support structures necessary for students to be successful. You're going to make it's going to make sure that you are successful. Definitely, you want to utilize your special programs within your school district. Don't live in a silo, and don't function for your students in a silo. Realize that you have resources within your own district that will help you to be extremely successful because you're serving a lot of the same children and you want the same outcome. So if two people are rowing in the same direction, they're far more effective than one rowing, because if I'm only rowing on this side, I'm going around in circles. But if we're both rowing in the same direction, we're going to be more successful. So utilize your special programs and those people that have similar positions in those programs to the roles that you serve as well. And then finally, really work to partner with your parents and the family, because that is going to be your at-home support structure. They need to know what's going on for their student at school that's going to help them in their future, and how they can get on board with that, and how they can ensure that people will that they're being that you what you're trying to accomplish with the student when you have them during school is being reinforced and supported by the family. If the family doesn't understand, or the parents don't know what's going on and how that is helping their student to prepare to be future ready, they can't support that. So please always realize that building support structures, they are an important piece of that, because they're going to help support you in what you're trying to do for their students. That The next thing that we're going to talk about is the A in BAIT, which is analyzing existing opportunities. And so quite often that just means looking around you for things that are already there that can help you. Federal grants and funding, things such as title funds, Perkins, JET, IDEA, etc. These are opportunities to receive funding and to receive help and supplement your programs in ways that if you're not taking advantage of them, then your students are the ones that are missing out. So be sure to look for those opportunities to partner with people that have federal funds. If your district is fortunate enough to have a grant writer, they need to be your best friend, and you need to take them coffee and donuts, or find out what they like and take them that. If you have a grant writer in your district, that is something that can be very, very beneficial. You also can partner with organizations and companies to employ a grant writer sometimes to help your students specifically. So that's where the next thing that we're going to talk about, which is public and private grant opportunities, comes into play. So as you're getting out there and you're building those relationships, you're building those partnerships, you're looking for those opportunities, there are a lot of public and private grant opportunities available. It's just a matter of writing for the grant. And that scares a lot of people. I've done a lot of grant writing. And the thing of it is, oftentimes it's far scarier than it looks. There are several non-competitive grants out there, which means if you complete it correctly, that you receive those funds. There's also competitive grants, which is a different type of grant, and those you're competing against other individuals for a set amount of money that the organization or the entity is giving out. So those are a little more challenging, but then also provide additional opportunities for your students that you would not receive otherwise. So don't let grants scare you. And if you've never written a grant before, attend a grant workshop. And a great place, I think that a lot of times, if you have education and service centers in your state, um, a lot of times your state group, or at summer conferences, you will find that people will give workshops on grant writing. And it is definitely worth your time because those individuals that have successfully written for grants in the future, in the past, can help you to be successful in the future. So, definitely good use of your time if you're needing to learn how to be more effective and proficient at grant writing. But that is definitely an existing opportunity to take advantage of. And then, a lot of times, and we're seeing this have a huge impact recently, is state initiatives. And we're seeing across the United States a huge initiative in work based learning, um, from the capital level all the way down through the states and into local school districts, through our associations, and um, and the such. We're just seeing a huge initiative to help our future workforce to be ready for what comes next. So look into those state initiatives, and I put here a couple of examples. Um, Tennessee has an innovative schools grant for career and technical education. It is a non-competitive grant. If you write for it, you get it. And they have invested millions and millions and millions of dollars into this program to help support students. So again, finding the money that is there and the opportunities that are there is a great way for you to take advantage of some of the state initiatives that are coming down through legislations, through your state education departments, and things like this. For example, another example is I know Colorado has done a lot of combining their workforce initiatives from workforce councils and workforce development boards, their community college and post secondary group, as well as then their K-12s. So they're really trying to make sure that it's more of a headed type effort where they're working together. And again, as I mentioned, not working in silos. So working together because they are trying to get the same outcome. And so providing each other with the support structures, as we talked about earlier, that each need to support each other. And then the last under existing opportunities is local and regional organizations. Workforce commissions across the United States are a great place to start. Every state has workforce commissions and workforce boards. And going and becoming a part of those meetings and those conversations will put you in front of a completely new group of people that can help you to make sure that your students are truly workforce and future ready in all respects. So don't be afraid to invite yourself to some of those things, or to just ask them if you can come and listen. Just the opportunity to network with those people and to share, and give them the opportunity to give back as well. They may not know of a need that you have, and somebody can't meet a need that you have if they don't know that it exists. So it's a great opportunity for you to advocate for your programs, for your students, and for your school to get that additional support through existing opportunities. And those boards meet anywhere from monthly to quarterly. They all meet multiple times throughout the year. And a great way to do that is to just, for example, in Texas, you can contact the Texas Workforce Commission, and then the Texas Workforce can tell you where the different groups. How do you get in touch with the people that lead those organizations? Also, again, I mentioned regional service centers. If you have regional service centers within your state, or within your Department of Education that helps connect you with other organizations as well, that is a great way for you to find out what opportunities to attend those meetings might look like for you. And then the next one that we're going to talk about, we're halfway through our baiting, is identifying emerging markets for workforce development. And a lot of times, we've all heard that, we're preparing students for jobs that don't even exist yet. And that's a concept that has been floating around for many years. But now with the real push for work-based learning is really having to teach them those job ready, life ready skills that Joyce mentioned earlier to really help them prepare to be future ready. And what that means is not preparing them so much for a specific career, but helping them to be successful in their future in whatever career that they land in. So, and helping them to plan for that. A great way to do that is workforce commissions, as I mentioned. They all have annual reports and data from across the state where you can see what are some of the emerging markets, because you would hate to prepare a student for a career and then when they get to the end of their journey and they're ready to take that next step, that job doesn't exist anymore. That would be tragic. And we would all be very, very sad, including the student and the family. So you want to make sure that you're preparing students for jobs that are going to be emerging over the next 5 to 10 years. And getting that data to help support your needs assessments and your evaluations of your programs and what steps you can do to ensure that students are ready for that future. This is a great thing to look at. And in this presentation, I gave you a list of 5 different resources that where you can get reports that have been developed at a national level in the last year. They all have 2023 dates on them, and so it's current data. And a great example of this is a school district that I was working in. I was trying to develop a new career pathway, and I kind of had the luxury of being able to decide which career path the way that was going to be. And then, so I really looked and dug into emerging market data for Texas. And what I found was Bell Helicopter, which is a large industry in North Texas, has a very, very specific skill set for people to work in their factory, and that 60% of their workers were going to retire within the next 5 years, and there were no supports in place to replace those people when they retired. That's an emerging market. There were going to be over 2,000 jobs just in the 3 counties around where I was in the next few years, and it was a very trainable type situation. So I used that data. I went to Bell Helicopter and I said, let me help you replace and feed your workforce. You tell me what students need to know, and then you work with me, you partner with me, which is the next thing we're going to talk about, and we will train you a workforce. And so I did the same thing with Caterpillar Holt. I went and talked to them and I said, let me train your workforce in this area. And so having that data to support and say, here's a real need, and I can show you the data, here's a need, where do we go from here? So using that data to help strengthen your case when asking for help from others, when we get to partnerships, is going to be crucial. You also can get great information from the Department of Labor. You also can get things from the national and international workforce development. You can get it from leadership foundations, and then your local and state workforce development reports. I said, most of those come out quarterly, but all of them report annually. So getting that local area, so you can definitely look at the United States, and that's certainly something you want to do, but then drill down and look at your state data, and then drill down even further and look at your regional data that it actually encompasses yourself and the counties surrounding you. So you want to find something in all 3 of those that speak to the needs of your students to help make sure that you're preparing them for a future career. And then the last of the debate is the importance of partnership. And you've heard me mention partnerships throughout the first three steps, but as you've built the support structures, as you've analyzed opportunities that already exist, as you've identified those emerging markets, where do I go? Now I've got some data behind where I think I want to go. Now it's time to reel in our partners. So we have done all of our pre-steps, and now we're ready to bring in those partners. Where do we look for partners? They honestly are all around us, but sometimes it's like you can't see the forest for the trees. I think that that's one of the things in partnerships. Sometimes they're all around you, but we don't really exactly know where to look. So sometimes we are challenged by that. So I gave a list. Retired teachers are a great resource. A lot of times they still want to be a part. They still have a love for students, and they really want to be a part of the process. A lot of them belong to retired teachers associations, and it depends on your area, if that's at a state level, a local, or a county level. But tap into those retired teachers. That is a great place to start to get some additional support for your students. Your Chamber of Commerce. If you're not a member of the Chamber of Commerce, talk to your school district about letting you be one of the representatives that goes to the Chamber of Commerce. Most all schools belong to your local Chamber of Commerce. And sometimes nobody even goes. I always just would go when I would, and ask the superintendent, who attends the Chamber of Commerce meetings? And sometimes it's them. And I just would say, can I go with you? Because I need to develop some partnerships within our community. And I know this is a great place to start. So just asking, can I go with you? Is a great way to get yourself into the chamber. I started going with a superintendent, and within just a little while, she's like, you know what? I think you should be the representative that goes to the chamber, because I miss meetings all the time because I don't have time to go. So can I hand that to you? And you will be the liaison for our school district. That then can lead to committee chairs. It can lead to board positions on the chamber, and again, strengthening those partnerships. And when you're meeting every single month with people in industry, business owners within your community, you have face-to-face opportunities to ask them for their support and their partnership to help make sure that your students are successful. Economic development councils, depending upon where you live. If you live in a more urban developing part, those exist, whether you realize they do or not. And then at the larger scale, those exist in more rural areas, but they're largely driven by industry. So whatever industry is, perhaps if you lived in Silicon Valley in California, maybe it's not something that you're seeing a lot of urban development. It's going to be more industry driven. So look around. If you don't have a lot of growth within the area you live, maybe you live in a rural community or a rural area, then go to your city council meeting. Go to those types of things and look for the things that are driving what is coming into your community, and who's taking an integral part of investing in your community, because they will invest in your children as well. Your CT advisory boards, every school district in the United States is required to have a CT advisory council. Now, they are required to meet at least twice a year. Some meet monthly, some meet quarterly, some just meet twice a year. But that is a great way. Go to your CT director and again, shock them again, and volunteer to be on their advisory council. You will be met with gracious hugs, and you might get some candy and flowers out of it as well, because they're always trying to find people to serve on that committee. And that is a great way for you to introduce yourself to people within the community, within organizations, and also industry, which you're going to be able to help your students. Workforce commissions, I've mentioned that multiple times. Those opportunities, go to those meetings, ask people, network, talk to them, tell them about your students, find out what things you have in common with them. What types of services do they provide to the community, and what kind of services do you need? So that is a great way to utilize that networking as well. Go to your counselors. Your counselors typically, by the way, counselors are extremely hardworking individuals that have way too many things to do and oftentimes have a lot of opportunities for resources or a lot of lists of resources that can be very, very beneficial to your students and can open that door for you by saying, well, if you have a special need as it relates to this, we have often worked with this group or this organization or this nonprofit. Counselors, a lot of times people will reach out to them, nonprofits and foundations will reach out to them because they do want to give back. They just don't know how. So visit with your counselors. Make this is you know, I know counselors just had their conference, National Counselor Week. I think it was last week. And so make friends with them, talk to them, and make sure that you're utilizing any resources that they have as well. But they, in and of themselves, are a great resource for you to partner with as well. Community liaisons. A lot of larger companies and nonprofits will have educational liaisons, people that their whole job is to partner with with educators and in the educational process. So reach out to those individuals, take them to lunch, set up a meeting, invite them to coffee, have those conversations because they have resources far beyond what you have. Particularly if you work in K-12 education, we all know that is something that is always a challenge. We have great mandates that come down. Most of them are non-funded. So we're asked to change the world and we're given pennies to do it. So go out and find those community liaisons, either to nonprofits or to industry, and get their help, but also get their funding. Get them to start helping to contribute to that student's future success. And if it is building up a workforce for them, if it is helping them to make a difference, or perhaps helping their employees to pay it forward, you will find that they are great partners to have. And then finally, community-based resources, and whether that be community colleges, whether that be, as I mentioned, nonprofits. What are some specific community-based resources, education foundations, things of this nature? There's a lot of times there are resources that are specific to the community that only help within that community, and they have typically a budget. And now is a great time of the year because for organizations, foundations, and businesses, they just started their budget year in January. So they haven't expended, if they set aside $2,000 or $20,000, they haven't spent it or allocated it all yet. So now is a great time to look into trying to get some of their resources, and not just financial, but whether it be that they give excuse me, give time off to their employees to maybe come and talk at your college or career fair, or to talk at a transition fair, or to hold meetings with your parents and your families around work-based learning, or future readiness, or college and career opportunities, or college via, as a part of the journey to a career. There's all different kinds of things where you can utilize community colleges, you can utilize business and industry and nonprofits in this respect that are very, very community based. Many times those are the best resources because they are focused on your immediate community, and they want to help those students. So that is a great place to look. here are some of the resources that I mentioned. Interlink is a big thing in North Texas where I'm at, because they actually do regional data. And I mentioned digging down into your regional data. So that's just an example. But each area within the country has organizations and groups. Interlink is a nonprofit, but what it does is it's funded by industry to track and the data around what is happening in the regional workforce. What are the needs? What's coming? What's going? And that kind of stuff. So find those resources within your own. That's just an example of one that I used tremendously when I was a program director. International Monetary Fund, navigating the global divergence. Um, we're living in an ever growing world, where remote work is becoming a huge thing, where students with special needs perhaps are seeing more remote opportunities. So it may be that they have the opportunity for something outside of the United States working in a remote capacity. So don't limit your reach. You want to definitely take that bait and go fishing in another pond if you can. So make sure that you're looking at all opportunities for students, and don't overlook that we have about 30% of our workforce has transitioned to a form of hybrid or remote working. So you definitely want to prepare those as well. And then generative IA and the future of work in America. That is a great report, again, put out this year. The World Economic Forum put out the Future of Jobs report this last year. Excellent place to look. These also come with some great graphics and some things that you can share with your teachers. You can share with within your own reporting that you do, whether it be a needs assessment or if you're trying to have a conversation with someone around helping your students to meet a need. This is great data for you to share with community and industry partners as well. Always the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics is a great place to look at stuff. And then U.S. Chamber of Commerce. They did a recent deep dive into the data around the workforce of the future. And that is a great read as well. And so as we wrap up, we're going to do some question and answer, but as a best practice, sometimes some of the best resources I ever found, I learned about from somebody else. So hopefully all of you that are here today found at least something new that you can go and try out. But maybe you have found the next greatest thing. And I would love if you would share that with us. If you could drop that in the chat. And I visited with Michelle and Joyce about that. We can capture those and then we can share those back with the group. Because again, when you're not living in a silo and you're pulling from around you to build your own support structures, right? Then you are going to be more successful. So if you could drop those in the chat, I'm going to turn it back to Joyce. And I think we're going to do some question and answer.
Yes. Oh my goodness. And of course, I'm sitting here taking copious notes on all of this amazing stuff. And Dr. Donna Barney DiCano, I don't want to, DiCiano, sorry, the YMCA. That is a great suggestion. It kind of leads into what I was going to say is that in our school district, we had a parent who was on the board who was a lawyer, and he helped us create a foundation, which many school districts have themselves as well. But he also, I guess, because of the type of law that he practiced, he advocated that people who felt so moved could leave that foundation in their will as part of their legacy and things like that. And I was like, well, that's a little, serious, but it's right. I mean, like you've got parents, you've got grandparents, you've got other family members who would love to contribute because they know what that school and that program had done for their child and so forth, and they want to help others. So really, really lovely thoughts. And I laughed out loud when you said the superintendent was saying, I miss meetings sometimes. That was kind of always how I got voted into doing things. It was like, yeah, I showed up, but it's what you make of it, right? We've had folks, tell us it's how many doors you knock on Main Street, because those are the future employers for all your kiddos. And so getting Main Street involved in your transition program is really a big ad that I would put in there. Those partnerships as you said, that's really the way to look at it. How can we support your local business, Mr. and Ms. Main Street, and how can you help us? So we've got kiddos that want to work, that want to have an independent life. So really wonderful. I had just one question from that was in the chat earlier, and that was, you had mentioned in those federal grants and the federal funding, title funds, Perkins, and JET, and IDEA. But we were unfamiliar with JET. Do you have any clarification for that on us?
Sure. Actually, the best way to do is you just go in and Google JET grant.
Mm-hmm.
It'll take you to the site. That's a federal competitive grant. But it's for introducing, and we utilized, in the example I talked about where we started the restaurant, where we used special needs students and our special education students, and we wrote and got some JET funding to buy a food truck, to actually take those students out into the community and work community events, and to work different things like that. So it has to do a lot with career and technical education, but if you'll partner with your CTE person, and this is something that maybe several of you that are in transition and special education might not know, but there is a percentage of federal funding that comes into career and technical education that is required to be spent servicing special populations of students within those career and technical education classrooms. So that is a marriage made in heaven, where you're being able to braid your funding. And if you don't know what braided funding is, I can visit with you about that. My email is on there. I noticed a couple people that were on that I saw that are friends of mine that I invited to come to this, that are really experts at braiding funding. So if you need to understand what that means, it's basically, I'm taking my funding, you're taking your funding, and this person's taking their funding. We're all trying to accomplish the same thing, so we use a little bit of this and a little bit. So we're putting them together to accomplish something together. And so there's a lot of great things that you can do with that as well. So reaching out to those people within your school district, or writing grants together, is allowing for you to get money from different places to accomplish things with your students.
Awesome. And that is really important. The fact that portion of the CTE funding needs to be spent on our students who have special needs. That's something I don't think we've mentioned in any of our webinars. Haven't had anybody who's touched upon that quite yet. I want to just give a shout out to Brenda from Vermont. Thank you very much. She talked about, she did a business search in her town and made a list, and you researched each business and set up interviews. Amen. That's the right way. It's just gotta, because you're also looking at locally relevant jobs, right? So you kind of want to train students to stay in their communities. Parents would like you to do that too. Makes it a little easier on them. Places where they live, right? And so in Vermont, you've got everything from maple syrup to ski resorts to environmental and ecosystem things. Oh, good job, Brenda, doing it since 2013. Wow. Can you imagine? That's over 10 years now. It's 11 years. Wow. Time flies. And speaking about time, I'm going to thank you so much, Tasha, for all of this amazing information. We're just a couple of moments over time, but I do, so I thank everybody for being here, but I do want to just kind of let you know that up on our website, there are a lot of resources. I saw somebody asking about the Job Ready, Life Ready curriculum. It's up there. Michelle also put the email info@educationassociates.com. You can get more information from that. But we really do have quite a bit of information. All of our webinar Wednesday materials are there, so you can go back and watch the recording. You can share it with colleagues. We have preview packets of information that are available. We have a wonderful monthly newsletter. And as a good tip, here's one of those pro tips. We have many directors of special ed who receive this. They're on the mailing list and they take it and they forward it out to their teams, because in those newsletters, we'll do things like recap today's webinar so that you get the salient points and the resources and the information right there at your fingertips. So it becomes a really easy way to share some of this good information on out. We have a lot of ways that you can reach out to us, and we do our where we're going through here. We have our webinar Wednesdays. This is kind of in backwards formats. I thought we were already through that. Funding information that was there. And we do personal Zooms as well as the webinars. So please feel free to go ahead and take a look on the website. Go to the resources page. We put a lot of work and a lot of information on there for you. And so Tasha, I just want to thank you once again. It was really informative. We truly appreciate it. And Michelle, do you have any parting words for everybody you want to say?
No, I think that you covered pretty much all of it. We'll be sending everybody a link to the recording this Friday. And then again, Joyce mentioned that newsletter. If you guys sign up for the newsletter, we also send out every single month like the summary of the webinars with links, all the resources that Tasha put in there and everything else. So recommend that you guys do that, visit our website and all of those good things, and have a very happy Valentine's Day. Thanks for joining us again.
Yeah, happy Valentine's Day. Thank you, Tasha.
Bye, guys. See you next time.
Bye. Bye. Thanks.